Ahoy there, I'm Tiny Pirate. Welcome to a little tutorial for Stellaris, the wonderful new 4X strategy game by Paradox. I've been enjoying this game quite a bit, and I thought I'd give you some tips and pointers around creating a new race. Now, the game has not yet released, so I wouldn't say there's a really strong meta, which means that there are probably a lot of things still to be discovered about race creation and optimal strategies, but I thought I'd share some with you, maybe to set a few minds at rest around what to play, as well as to give you some pointers for things that can be fun to play and match together. So first of all, as you should know, you just need to go into New Game and create New Race, or you can choose one of the predetermined races there. Now, I'm not going to mess around with appearance too much here, except to say there's a lot of interesting options. And one of the things I like about all these options is they can sometimes inspire you to come up with an interesting race. For example, these adorable foxes here with a basis of a race which was loved by everybody. Look at the cute little ears. I did a little stream of them. Meanwhile, where are they? These bug-like race here were part of a collectivist hive, I decided, so that was fun to build around. So we're just going to assume here that you've chosen something fun and funky to be a race. I'm going to choose these winged guys because their fluttery wings are kind of cool. And then we're just going to work through some of the options. I'm going to give them a random name. Some of these are a bit hard to pronounce. Yibrak, that sounds good. I'm assuming you'll do something similar. You can create, you can actually create a name list. You can see a couple of bad ones here. I've messed around with some culture names, did that off the subreddit. But that's actually very easy to do. So I expect we'll see heaps and heaps of mods offering you lots of interesting names. But I'm just going to choose one of the anthropoid name lists for now. That one seems good. Now you get into the interesting things. Traits, what you choose. So there are some interesting options in here, and they work together in interesting ways. Obviously the red ones are negative traits. They give you points. You can see here the number of points left, and also the number of picks. I can only ever have four things. So if I do that, can't pick any more traits. And right now this isn't very happy because I'm on -3 points. I've got to have that at 0. So let's just remove them. So let's talk about a few of them and the things I've found interesting. First, let's talk about Decadent. Decadent is a interesting one. If you don't have any slaves on your planet, then it's -10% to resource output. But interestingly, you can set a growing population as a slave before it has even been completed, before it's even grown, which means that no planet ever need worry about this bonus, because as soon as you land on a planet and a population grows, you can set it as slave, and likewise on your homeworld you can have slaves. Obviously you want to be going for a really hardcore slaver build to make this work, but it gives you a free point basically for doing nothing, for playing the game as normal. That's kind of interesting. I've fiddled around with Enduring and Venerable. I fiddled around with Venerable recently. Making your leaders live a very long time is quite nice, but if they're scientists, there's just more opportunities for them to fail at science and die. If they're planetary leaders, well, I guess that's nice. I don't know, is it worth 4 points? I didn't feel it in the game I played. I mean, to do that, you've got to be getting 2 negative traits somewhere, and that can be a challenge. So, conformists, I mean, very good if you want to have a collectivist race, and we'll talk about that in a second. The only problem is, your collectivists already not likely to diverge, and I guess conformists make that extra likely. If you hate dealing with revolts, maybe a collectivist conformist race is a good idea, but it does seem to be stacking bonuses together that perhaps otherwise aren't that useful, and we'll talk about how ethoses might make messing with that a bit difficult as well. You don't want to have a conformist who's also, we'll go to an ethos now, like an individualist. Where are they? Individualists have ethics divergence, so if I go individualist and then go conformist, you know, at that point we're kind of evening things out and about to the point where I don't know if there's much point. They're cancelling each other out. So why take one? Choose a way to go. You're either going to have a population that diverge and have the individualist bonuses, or you're going to have a conformist population. I think trying to cross all your I's and dot all your T's just results in a race that doesn't really go anywhere. Repugnant. Repugnant is, I don't know, it's quite nice if you're not too worried about going to war with people. Quite a helpful one. I mean, if you're going for a militarist, militarists already are kind of in the, if I look at militarists here, you've got bonuses for army damage, rivalry, modifiers for happiness when you're at war, that kind of stuff. Alliance influence costs, so you're not going to be getting into any alliances, much likely. So with the Repugnant, you're definitely not getting into any alliances, and it becomes a bit of a free option in there, I think, give you an extra point. Now, Charismatic is the opposite of Ugly. If you want to really go for a heavily charismatic race, get a lot of aliens on your side, form an alliance, then I guess Charismatic is pretty good. Synergizes quite nicely, as you'd expect, with Pacifists. Pacifists have maximum embassies, they gain more food, they are not likely to end up going to war, and everyone likes pacifists, I suppose. And if you're a xenophile as well, you love foreign aliens, so you love aliens, you are very happy being peaceful, and you're charismatic, so you're very attractive to other aliens. They like dealing with you for whatever reason. That's quite a nice thing to work together, build a strongly diplomatic race. Agrarian and thrifty and industrious. To me, these kind of actually all balance out. I'm not really convinced that one is better than the other. Likewise, intelligent. So these 2-point traits here in some ways all balance out. Yes, intelligent will get you a bit more science. So if you're 100 science, intelligent will get you 110 science. However, if you gained 15% more minerals from the start, you'd have 15% more... what do you think? What am I thinking? You'd have 15% more research bases. And if those research bases each produce 2 or 3 science, then that could actually be more than the bonuses you get out of the engineering output here. However, your engineering output around a world from building a base does require energy. So even though it's better, you're gonna have to raise a bit more energy, which you might want to do through one of the ethoses. Can't remember which one it is. Individualist, there you go, has more energy. So you don't necessarily need to go for intelligent. I know a lot of people find seeing games with big science bonuses pretty boring. I'm kind of in the same bag, even though I have done it a little bit myself. It isn't necessarily going to make anything grow quicker. I'm not exactly sure that any of these 4 here really offer a super unique bonus. Yes, maybe one of them will be slightly better early game and the other one slightly better late game. Because, for example, the food bonus just means that maybe you're going to produce or need to produce less food on any individual world. You won't have to devote a space to doing that. Maybe you devote that space to a mine or a science lab instead. And then we're back into this virtuous cycle where all of these 3 things, the food, the science, the minerals, all interweave and help you produce science. So not convinced one or other of those options makes a particularly great deal of difference. And now, natural sociologists, natural physicists, and natural engineer. I mean, that arguably is getting to be quite interesting for 1 point. I don't know. Again, science traits, it's a bit bland. Now, adaptive I find really fun. Adaptive increases the sort of habitability of worlds. Even though it says 80%, it actually will be 90% when you have your people on it. And habitability is max happiness. So, as you can see here, a plus 20% is a really massive and expensive bonus. Somehow you've got to get -3 out of your remaining choices, which means, choosing all the horrible things to kind of even that up a bit maybe. There you go, back to 0. Pretty ugly. Adaptive is quite nice because there's definitely a strategy around making a very happy race, because what you notice is that when you're over 80% happiness, there's a 10% production bonus. When you're over 90% happiness, that goes to 20%, which is, if you think about it, pretty substantial. Far more than you would get out of intelligent, what have you. But you do need to pretty much focus on making a happy race. So you could go Fanatic Spiritualist. You could pick up, just having a look through, trying to remember if there are any other good happiness traits. Maybe you're a Fanatic Spiritualist who's also a Xenophile, so, maybe you don't mind aliens. Or you could, Pacifist or something. Make yourself extra food and that'd be fine. But the Fanatic Spiritualist combined with sort of adaptive and where are we? There's another one down here. Communal +5 happiness is quite a nice combination. For a negative for that combination, I might want to chuck on sedentary, which reduces migration time, but you're maybe not going to worry too much about that and resettlement cost. I don't do that a lot in the game so far. Or maybe you're weak because you're a bit, your armies aren't going to be the best. But army damage minus 20%, that's not the end of the world if you pummel the enemy into the ground, is it? Likewise, I wouldn't, slow learner, slow breeders, maybe not. They seem a bit punishing. But that would be a great combination, in my opinion. Combining with sort of maybe a pacifist spiritualist here. Extremely happy race. And then there are bonuses in the government types as well. I'm trying to find a good one where you can get, there we go, moral democracy. That would be a 10% bonus from happiness there. Another 10% here. And when you would be, let me have a look, when you're with your communal 5%, that puts you at a plus 15% bonus. Throw on an edict or two for extra happiness. Good leader, and your people are going to be at 95, 100% on their home planet, and they're going to be well into the 80s. And very soon, with a building or two, into the 90s on any other planet that they can live on. And then you've got a race that can grow quite tall, I suspect. A lot of 20% bonuses do add up. So interesting way of playing it, I think. Other options that I think are a lot of fun are things like rapid breeders and nomads. Where are we? Nomadic. So a nomadic race will happily resettle themselves to somewhere they sort of feel like it. And I've done some experiments, and it seems that if another world is a bit happier than the one they're in, they will move. And the best thing about nomadic is they will move before your planet gets its own planetary administration. So when you settle a new planet, you can only move people to it until it hits 5 population and you've built a planetary administration. But if your race is nomadic, you might find that the people move themselves to the new planet, especially if you put on an edict like increased migration, or there's another one which allows extra happiness. So your new planet might be quite a happy place, and people will happily move there, which will boost colony growth, which might be quite a fun way of doing things. And that could build into what I'm going to call a donut strategy, where your core world, your original handful of worlds, become their own sector. Don't think your capital can ever be a sector, nor I'm not sure if you can change it either, but your other worlds become a sector, and then your fringe worlds become the ones you control. And with policies and edicts, you could allow migration, you could encourage migration with an edict, and because they're nomadic, people will leave the crowded core worlds and rapidly settle your fringe worlds. It seems so far quite hard to predict whether or not populations will move, but I think with nomadic it would be really interesting to try and set up a race that sort of spreads itself out quickly and fast, rather than having to wait for each world to hit 5 population before you're allowed to resettle to them and that kind of stuff. Other traits in here I tend to find right now are a little bit more for flavor than perhaps anything else. So for example, resilient, fortification defense bonus, yeah, sure, sounds good. Likewise, enduring for a longer lived race, okay, I guess that's fine. Solitary, that's a nice little negative if you're playing the grumpy cat race, perhaps making one up. Sedentary, again, not so problematic perhaps as we talked about. Weak, I've used that often. Slow learners, I don't think that's so bad. It's a pain early on because your scientists really need to gain levels. I would only choose slow learners if I was going with the hyperspace travel or with warp travel, because early on, until the mid-game perhaps, well, not mid-game, early mid-game, wormholes, while I really enjoy them, really fast way of traveling, they will somewhat restrict the range at which you can travel. And if you are doing that, until you build more wormhole generators, of course, but these options don't have that problem. They don't have to build wormhole generators. So if you're going wormhole travel and you're making your race very slow learners, and your scientists might find they've explored everything before they've hit level 4, for example, and that will make finishing off the hard anomalies you find quite difficult. So if you're going slow learners, consider how you're going to get your your scientists around how you're going to get them to really enjoy a large amount of space. That is, doing a lot of surveying. Non-adaptive and slow breeder. I have not messed with these. I don't like the idea that it would be hard to settle. I think if you were planning very heavily on a slave strategy where you were either going to colonize other worlds and turn those people into slaves, or if you were, that, you could probably take either or both of these. Just have a couple of core worlds which are good, and then enslave or build robots for the rest of your worlds, which, I don't know, that could work quite nicely. But it is it's a fair whack of negative traits there. Would give you some big +4 options though. So very strong, I haven't messed with. Again, army damage, how often are you in combat? The plus 10% minerals is quite an interesting little bonus. I mean, if you stack it alongside Industrious at 15%, you're getting most of Industrious and a big army damage increase. Is that great? I'm not sure it is. I think between pummeling the heck out of a planet from orbit, I'm not sure why you would necessarily need that. Your choice is there. I think a lot of these become character, styles and approach. When thinking about governments and ethoses, there's a lot of options here, and I don't think any of them are particularly terrible. I mean, they offer a variety of bonuses that, I don't know, on the face of it seem pretty good. I know a lot of people are going to want to plow into something like a science directorate to give themselves more leadership, more research alternatives, or bonus research or survey speeds. That's fine, but I wouldn't be afraid of doing things like divine mandates or military dictatorships. These are some fun options as well. Bearing in mind a couple of things. So, when you're a fanatic xenophile, you have an alien slavery tolerance of a plus 100%. That means you're happy to enslave aliens, but you could also be an individualist and have a slavery tolerance of minus 50%, which means you really hate enslaving your own people, because that's minus 50%. Like, if you enslaved your own race, that would be that would be terrible. Everyone would become very unhappy. But if you enslave alien races, 100% fine with that. They basically will not care at all about alien slaves. Likewise, the opposite of that, if you're a fanatic collectivist, 100% slavery tolerance, that counts across the board. You like enslaving everyone all the time, pretty much endlessly. No problem, you own slaves, alien slaves, it's just everyone is slavery. Good times. Which means that, collectivist xenophobe seems a touch pointless. I don't know, 150% alien slavery tolerance is what you'd end up with. Is that good? Is that bad? Seems a little redundant. So you spent a trait to get plus 10% xenophobia, which, I don't know, maybe for role-playing purposes, that'd be great. You want to play some disgusting Zerg-like aliens who hate everyone. I don't know, I'd probably go militarist in that case. At least you get those little bonuses there. But yeah, so watch out for some things that are a little bit counterintuitive. So slavery tolerance plus 100%, not much point in picking up even more slavery tolerance there. And watch out for some interesting things, like with the fanatic collectivists, there's an option in one of these races here, Despotic Empire, synergizes really nice with having slavery on. So I used this for my Hive Mind Let's Play, which you can see on the channel. I had a collectivist race. I figured they were a hive, like kind of bees, and they had a bonus to slavery mineral output and slavery food output, which means on all of my planets, slaves do the work. I have Decadent, so I have a free kind of trait there, and I get bonuses when I'm using slaves. Seems pretty good. And the building cost reduction, quite noticeable, adds up over time, so not a bad option. Some other interesting options on the government ethos wheel are Fanatic Spiritualist. They have an interesting tech tree. So at the Fanatic techs, I think, haven't played through the late game yet, but all of these techs do unlock interesting options for what to do with your race. I found that with an individualist race I was running, Fanatic Individualist, or kind of a grumpy cat race, very soon after the start of the game, one of my species declared themselves post-species name. So I had Valdari Grumpy Cats, and I had a group declare themselves post-Valdari because they were individualists. They'd gone and cybernetically altered themselves. I think they were possibly materialists like this. So you can get some really interesting story things happen when you choose an ethos. So Spiritualist is all about collective unity and one mind and that kind of stuff. So maybe Fanatic Spiritualist and Collectivist would be an interesting one. Get lots of happy slaves. And then with the Divine Mandate, you can you can have that 100% alien or 100% slavery tolerance, plus all the very happy people from being spiritualists. So yeah, lots of good options there. And I really wouldn't worry too much about screwing it up. I don't think it's really possible to make any horrendous sort of decisions. Just get on with it. So the rest of the stuff should be pretty easy for you to figure with. There's no particular bonus to choosing one of these over the other. I think the game carefully makes sure that at least one same world as your choice appears near you. After that, it's kind of random, so you might get more same or very similar worlds, but you can unlock tech to research and colonize other worlds relatively promptly. Should be lots of good options out there. In terms of weapons, the only thing I would say is that projectile weapons don't look really pretty in game, because you can hear a bang bang but you can't see anything cool. With lasers you see cool pew pew, with missiles you see missiles flying around. It should be noted that missiles, although they're vulnerable to point defense systems early in the game, you will not see the enemy carry them, and missiles will punch straight through shields. The energy weapons on the other hand hit shields but ignore any armor. It won't take too long before you're researching both kinds or all kinds of weapons, and then you get to mix match as you see fit. I'd choose one of these two, for looks mostly, and whichever one seems to fit your race the best. So Ftl Method is travelling in a straight line to another system within a certain range, and that range bubble starts off pretty decent sized. You can hop around the galaxy easy enough, and it gets bigger. Quite a good one to start with. I've just been playing with it, and I'm not convinced that these other two are any better. I think it's quite fast travel. Hyperspace travel, you're following warp lines that you can only see, other users can't see until they research tech, and so that looks like the kind of EVE Online system map, and that's nice and fast as well. Wormhole travel is the longest direct range of either of these two. It can even bridge the gap quite easily between arms of a galaxy, but you need a wormhole generator in the system, and they have to travel to that system to use it. So which one to choose? Really up to you. I like all of them. I played with all of them. Really not such a big concern. Ship appearance, really simple choice here. Choose one that you feel fits. And that is basically your race creation. I've talked through a few strategies. I've talked through them quite quickly. Hopefully you find that interesting and helpful, and something to help you consider how you're going to build your race. So my thoughts are really this. In summary, do not stress too much. You will have a hard time screwing up. The game is pretty forgiving. Secondly, go for character. Perhaps I didn't mention this much, but choose something that you feel fits the look and feel of your race that you see on the screen. And third of all, do consider some of the interesting strategies around things like slaves, around happiness, and around how you might boost production. Don't worry too much about boosting science. It's a real natural habit for 4X players to want to boost the science, but I've not found it to be especially dominant compared to other kinds of resource generation boosts. That's at least my experience so far before the game's released. Anyway, I've been Tiny Pirate. This has been 20 odd minutes of me ranting about Stellaris. I do love this game so much, and since no one at work wants to hear me theory crafting, you can hear me theory crafting. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy playing Stellaris. Until next time, check out my channel. I have lots of Stellaris stuff on there right now. Subscribe so you can watch more of it, and I'll catch you again soon. Drop me a comment with your thoughts. Good night, have fun. Thanks for watching.